Hi, today we're here with a representative from God's Pantry, a local food bank in Los Angeles, California. And I'm Isaac Yu from the Haven Initiative, director of the Haven Initiative, co-founder of the Haven Initiative as well. And today is one of our first podcast recordings with some of our local community organizations that have done a great job in feeding not just the homeless, but also low income and those in need of food services as well. So without further ado, let's start this podcast. So can you introduce yourself and your role at God's Pantry?
Yeah, of course. My name is Ken Cheval. I am the social media marketing intern for God's Pantry, and I also handle social media for their social enterprise, the Thirsty Graphics.
Awesome. So how did God's Pantry get started? What was really the drive to kind of start this entire initiative?
Well, God's Pantry started because people in the community saw a need to feed students. A principal at a local Pomona school saw that some of the students were hungry, so him and some members of his church men's group came together to not only feed those kids, but slowly over time feed people in the community in different trailer parks in the area, and from there it just kind of skyrocketed to feeding a lot of families in that Lake County area.
Wow, so something that small can become something so big right now.
Absolutely.
Something like 12,000 families right now getting fed, right?
Right now we're approximately 12,000 families a month, so about 30,000 people fed monthly.
All right. So one of the main features, kind of interesting points about God's Pantry is that God's Pantry, the pantry does employ a lot of either incarcerated or ex-gang affiliated members. So why is this the case, and how did this become?
Yeah, so that's known as Wraparound services. So God's Pantry works really hard to make sure that we help justice impacted individuals. So that's anybody that's either been in the legal system or is affected by the legal system, either by being a child that was in foster care, people who have a history of addiction, incarceration. So it's all about giving people a second opportunity at life and giving them the ability to know that they're more than whatever their past is.
All right, so that kind of sounds like second chances is really the best, right? So,
Absolutely.
So, kind of, what is your own personal belief in second chances, and how did that help you and kind of the pantry as a whole kind of get here as well?
Well, the Pantry's mission is something that I personally believe in. It's fueled by faith. It's all about continuing the work that Christ did on earth in order to help promote a better place and by just serving others. At the end of the day, it's all about making sure that we're there to provide something that people need, which is help, assistance, education, learning, and then just forgiveness and grace. Just because a lot of the time, the people that come to the pantry that we intake don't really know much more than the street. They don't know anything outside of violence. They need a guiding hand, and that's what the pantry works to provide.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So what does running this food pantry mean to you? Not just in a logistical kind of sense, but also in an emotional kind of sense.
From an emotional sense, being here on a Wednesday and getting to see the amount of cars lined up to where it wraps around the entire street and the whole block, it's kind of amazing because you just see a look of gratitude and appreciation in families. But on the other hand, when you see trainees being able to provide that and they see their own worth, it's so amazing to see and know that differences are being made on both ways by people giving and people receiving grace. It's a really beautiful thing to be a part of.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to see when the line just wraps around the block.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
You see how efficient the system is as well, yeah.
The system honestly really is a testament to how hard the organization works to put in places that help just keep things organized. Right now, on a Wednesday, we have upwards to 500 cars just lined up, and so if people would get individual time slots, so making sure that everything stays as clean as possible is really helpful to keep the process smooth.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. All right, so we all know that God's Pantry is a pantry, so it's a kind of a food service
Yes.
as well. But how do you think, and we've also heard this in our story from the tour, from one of our tour people, how does God's Pantry also connect, food access to like long store disability, to substance abuse recovery, mental health assistance, and even housing?
Yeah, so outside of the Wednesday food drive that we do here in Pomona, we also provide services, anything from legal counseling to mental service help to job training, housing. We also do emergency food kits for people that come into need. So even though the pantry's in the name, there's so much more that the pantry does to help serve.
That's pretty cool. All right, so moving on from this kind of introductory part of God's Pantry, so we really want to talk about the people you serve, especially regarding kind of the homelessness aspect that you guys really help. So first off, what's the biggest misconception of the people you serve?
The biggest misconception when it comes to especially homelessness is that homelessness is not always a choice. There are so many people that are impacted due to extenuating circumstances from domestic violence, drug abuse, being below the poverty line and losing their job. A lot of people are one paycheck away from being homeless. So the Pantry offers somewhere where people can land comfortably by helping provide housing services. Currently, the church that the Pantry owns is getting reworked and remodeled in order to help house families, and we also work really closely with a women's shelter.
Wow, that sounds actually really cool, yeah. So regarding kind of statistics, do you know, or is there kind of a tracking of, do you know how many people that are actually homeless or homeless individuals use this Pantry services?
I can't give you an approximate number off the top of my head, but I do know that the women's shelter, I want to say helps around 100 women, maybe like in a month, but I'm not 100% sure on that number.
Okay, yeah, no problem, yeah, but that sounds amazing that you guys are also connecting to, you know, other organizations as well. Kind of the one last question I have before we're going to hand it off to people is that really, do you feel like this problem of homelessness within LA County can be solvable through community means, or is it really kind of a national problem?
Oh, I think homelessness is a threefold problem. I think the first thing in regards is definitely the need for housing and the price. Rent is at an all-time high, mortgages are at an all-time high. So making housing affordable and accessible to individuals is really important. And then the second part of that is also making sure that we work to make sure that people not only have a wage that is livable, but also accessible means to get food, to get services. Because it's really hard to want to afford housing and you're also struggling to afford to eat. And then the third part of that from a policy stance is I can't really speak in terms from a national sense, but it really is just dependent on what services are being provided to help rehabilitate homeless individuals. You can see a lot of the time, a lot of homeless individuals suffer either from addiction or mental illness, and that plays a very large part in why they are homeless. So making sure that services are being available so that way they can adjust, cope, and also live with whatever that they're dealing with.
Wow, that's actually a great answer as well. Okay, so I'm going to hand off the hot seat to one of you guys. Which one's go first?
Hi, my name is Kieran. You introduce yourself, so I'm just going to get right started.
Yeah, here.
You guys mentioned that you guys really like to connect with like the individuals who need assistance. So, what are the ways you guys connect with them and like build a relationship with the people?
Yeah, different ways is that the Pantry works to build relationships. Firstly, the classes that the Pantry offers, not only are they light classes, but there's a lot of fun classes that they offer to try and get to know people. You've heard before on the tour we do the dance deals, the GameStop Friday, things that are very casual, fun, and ways for people to just unwind and connect with each other.
Yeah. So, you mentioned like some of the practical classes. So, how much of a need is there for like these classes, such like the TV classes, and like, can you explain further like about why this is a need that is persistent in the community?
So part of that is due in part to the fact that a lot of individuals that are just impacted or living below the poverty line don't really have access to these things. They don't have maybe a family member with a card that's ready available to go to the DMV. It could be something happening at home that affects their other aspects of life. Because again, it really just comes down to having that strong foundation, a firm base to work from. So the Pantry helps provide that for those that don't really have this ability to do that in their own lives.
So, yeah, that's really awesome. But you mentioned how like many people don't have that like firm foundation, but there are a lot of people who are in the process of like losing that foundation. So, what are some ways you think we can prevent people from like losing that foundation, or like making sure they stay and don't go below the poverty line? Like, how can we keep people above the poverty line?
Keeping people above the poverty, that definitely is like a nuanced issue. I don't know if I can give an exact answer on that, but helping keep stability, I think especially for individuals in positions of privilege, either if it be from a financial sense or access to give help, it really comes from first being empathetic to the cause. We have to make sure we understand what we're trying to do, how we're approaching people and helping them. And the second hand of that is action. We can post about it as much as we want, we can talk about it as much as we want, but until you're actually like boots on the ground helping someone out, either by volunteering at organizations like this, or even just taking the time to talk to somebody, that's really where sustainable change happens. It comes from people.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Because from experience, like when people like see a homeless person, they think like that person's like people almost see them as subhuman. So like that's just like the first step. So what do you think is the most effective way to change public perception of how people see homelessness, and what are like the best ways to like humanize the homeless?
I think first, as to start a conversation, I think we have to make sure that we acknowledge the reasons for homelessness and how sometimes it isn't just merely someone made a bad choice. Because a lot of the time we like to think that this person is in that position because they did it to themselves. And there's times where definitely people make choices that don't help their situation, but a lot of the time that's influenced based on how they grow up, that's influenced based on what extenuating circumstances they're dealing with, that's based on so many factors that we don't understand until we talk to this person and break down those barriers. Once we start that conversation with someone and we kind of put our own biases aside based on how someone may look or the position that they're in, we can truly understand how can we help this person.
Yeah, that's really great. So, say there's a person who maybe like middle class and just like walking down the street and sees a homeless person. What do you think this person should do to help this? What do you think like, the most effective way like this like an average person can help like the average homeless person that they come across?
I think first being informed about what information can I give them, because obviously the immediate answer is give them something to eat, try and provide them some care, but that is only so sustainable. It's really important that you give them the tools to also not only help themselves, but put them in a position to find those who know how to help them best. So for example, if you're in the city of Pomona and you see someone who is in need of help, direct them to God's Pantry.
Yeah.
Let them know that there's somewhere that provides services that can help them. And not only are you giving a man the fish, you're teaching them how to fish also. You're giving them the ability to see that, oh, like, there is an opportunity for me. Maybe I'm more than just my situation, or maybe these people can help me get out of this bad place. Because a lot of the time, a lot of homeless people feel that there is no hope, and we want to be able to help provide that hope, stability, and belief that you can be better.
Yeah, that's really great. I think ending on a hopeful note, just like that, giving people hope is a great solution.
Hi, so I have a few more like general but also important questions.
Absolutely, Ernest.
So one of them is definitely like, what do you wish to like say? Like, what is something that you really want to express and let others know about like your organization and what you do for the people in the community?
Absolutely. If I was to say the thing I want to highlight the most about God's Pantry is that it's people from the community that are giving back to the community. I want to say that maybe 75% to 80% of the people that work for staff on God's Pantry are either justice impacted, formerly incarcerated, or went through the program themselves. And they relate to people that come through here better than I ever could. I'm coming from a position of privilege to where I never had to deal with the extenuating circumstances that some individuals here have dealt with. So there's only so much sympathy that I'm able to give in certain situations. So when people come here and they look and they see people who are formerly in gangs, people who have overcome their addictions, people who have fought legal cases, they see true stories of what happens when people give that second chance.
I completely agree with you, honestly. I think that's a really good like thing to like really get out there and a message for the people. Another question I have is, what would you say is your like biggest struggle and something that you really have trouble with currently?
Biggest struggle, I would say one of the bigger struggles at the pantry is it's information giving. I think that even though we serve so many families, you would be very surprised to see that a lot of people still don't know about these services. And we will table at events or we'll do social media posts, and we've been going on for a couple of years, and yet people are still maybe not having the most information given to them. And that comes onto our part in order to make sure that we're doing the most we can to hand out flyers, make sure that we're making social media posts. These last 2 months, we've seen a really large increase, about almost 200% into our social media base in terms of followers, likes, and shares. And we're really hoping that that really helps catapult and move towards more people having more information and more access to the resources we provide.
Yeah, definitely. Honestly, I think that's like a good struggle to have, because at least you're able to really work on it and then actually like advance and provide more help.
Yeah.
Another big question I have is, where exactly you give all these kinds of support to people, which is super great, but where do you receive support? Like, where do you mainly receive your funding and the ability to go and help the others?
So I would say a large majority of where our funding comes from is grant-based. We have a lot of either government grants and assistance, or also donations from faith-based partners. So that could be associated churches or other donors that give money. And then also fundraising is a very big part of what the Pantry does to try and help keep the mission forward.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of like missions, and to add on to that, what exactly is the goal that you want to see in happening and like wish to be able to interact with in the future?
I think that the goal would always be just to serve as many families as we can. If the day ever comes that we outgrow this warehouse, because this is the second warehouse that the Pantry is used, I can see that the Pantry would want to just continue to grow, continue to serve more families. I can't speak for the Pantry itself from the powers that be, but I could imagine it'd be second location, more services potentially. It just really depends on what doors open up, and also making sure that if we were to grow, that the base is stable enough that it can support that growth. Because it's also important to make sure that you take care of the families that you're taking care of currently, because if you try and help too many people and you fall short, now not only are you falling short for the others that you're helping, but you're also missing your main base too. So it's just important to make sure that it's steady, it's well paced, and that it's always remembering that like at least one family, like, even one family served is better than no family served.
For sure. Okay, that's all for my questions. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I just want to ask, the 200% increase in social media, do you mean that's because of you?
No, that's actually because we have an amazing development manager. Her name is Julia. She is fantastic at what she does. I work directly under her. She's my boss pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
And she has been a really firm hand driving force in helping with that engagement increase. And I'll of course assist with certain things, but I have to give all the credit to her for what she's been doing.
Oh, Julia, yeah, that's the one we've been in contact with since the email, yeah. All right, awesome. Okay. So now we know about God's Pantry. Let's know a little bit more about you, in fact.
Yeah.
So we're gonna like a couple kind of games, kind of like trivia games.
Yeah, go for it.
So basically, we're gonna start off with the 3 Fs, like we're gonna call it actually. So it's first, fast, and favorite. All right. So just say whatever comes to mind.
Sure.
Whatever first thing that comes to mind as well.
Okay, first, fast,
Right,
favorite.
you're ready. All right. So first of all, what was the first moment you realized this work really mattered to you, really mattered to the community?
The first time that I came into the Pantry and everybody shook my hand, and it's one thing when you get oh, hi, nice to meet you, like a limp handshake, but everyone was so excited to have me come on and be a part of the team. Some of them knew about my experience and where I was coming from with the media marketing background, and it was so warm and welcoming. That's the thing that really stood out to me and let me know this is a place that really does want to serve the community for a good reason.
That's really important. What's the fastest? So this is the fast. What's the fastest you've ever packed a food box or even handled a general task over here?
So I don't get to work in the warehouse, but the fastest I've handled a task was probably sending an email in 10 seconds.
10 seconds.
In 10 seconds, because it was something that needed to get done. That slipped my mind a little bit to call myself out. So I was able to draft up a quick email and get it sent to go ahead and get an answer for
Yeah. Even when I'm sending it to Julia, for example,
Yeah.
I have to review it for 15 minutes. Right?
But make sure it's all professional, it's in the right verbiage, yeah.
All right, so let's move on to favorite, the last F. So what is your favorite story or person from your time here at God's Pantry so far?
My favorite, it would probably be Victor. Victor was the one that gave me my official tour of the Pantry, and like he shared with you guys on our tour, he was incarcerated for 31 years, and you hear his story and how he talked about having to readjust to society. Like when he was talking to me, he told me iPhones that did not exist. We had landlines, we couldn't drive, and all these things that would be barriers to him being able to readjust and come back into society. And him just talking about how the Pantry helped him overcome it, and the support that he got, and that he was able to break all those barriers. And now what he does in the community and helping serve, it's truly probably one of the most inspirational things I've ever seen in my life. So I really give a shout out to Victor.
For sure, shout out to Victor. All right, so let's move on to kind of the myth and fact portion of this kind of video
Yeah.
show. All right, so I'm gonna read a couple statements, and you tell me if this is a myth or a fact, and maybe a little bit of why as well.
Okay, sure.
All right, so first off is most people who use food banks are homeless.
That is a super myth. That is a super duper myth. A lot of people that use the food bank are people that they have two choices. They're either buying groceries or they're paying their rent. And sometimes they make the choice to pay their rent, and we're a service that helps make sure that they have food in their stomach at the end of the day.
All right. So second is food banks only give out canned goods.
That is also a myth. So we really have an amazing distribution system from a lot of partners that help provide fresh produce, meats. We have the most amount of eggs I've ever seen in my life in that walk-in fridge that we have. So it's making sure that people are getting well-balanced, nutritious food that they can make real good things out of. And of course there's gonna be some canned goods in there because it's shelf stable and it's something that people can keep on to. But the diversity of food that we get in different products, it's actually amazing to know that like we're not helping promote like food scarcity and unnutritious things, especially because I know sometimes we worry about like too much canned goods about the sodium intake that someone could have. But it's really cool to see. It's also really nice because you see some really cool fruit in there. Because like I think one time I saw dragon fruit, and I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty tight. Like, that's some dragon fruit, pretty sick.
You guys also give out like fresh meals as well, right? Like hot meals.
I'm not too sure about the hot meals actually. I don't think I've seen that personally, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did.
Okay, yeah. So the third one is, let's see if this is also a myth. Hunger is mostly a rural issue.
That is also very false. So hunger is definitely, as we see in LA County, something that can affect a lot of people in the inner city. Food deserts and food scarcity, and especially with the inflation rates that we've been seeing in the country, have really had a drastic impact on how much food insecurity is affecting people. It's really tough because you have so many bills that come in once, especially as you're an adult, as you have a family, when children's come into the picture. So to call it a rural issue, I think is very short-sighted to like how big this is, especially in the States.
I see. All right, so number 4 is going to be people abuse free food systems. Like guys' pantry.
I would say false. I think there's obviously a chance that maybe someone who is in the pantry out of 500 on a given day maybe does have the money to do that. But at the same time, I think it's really ignorant to assume someone's situation. It can be someone who has a very well-paying job and is very over the poverty line. Maybe they have medical bills. Maybe they are helping pay for a family member that also needs help. We don't know what happens behind closed doors in a lot of people's lives. So I think to assume anybody is abusing the system is, I can understand it, but I think it's also important to know that we don't always have the full context and story of certain situations.
I see. All right, so I'm losing count here. Okay, the next one is going to be only nonprofits handle food insecurity.
That's also false. I know that there's things like food stamps and different county, state, national-based programs that help, but it doesn't hurt that nonprofits are also helping supplement that. I think because of food insecurity and crisis, there can never be too much help. So when all these communities come together, and then especially when we have government grants coming in, we see a lot of things and moving parts and actions that help create this change from food insecurity.
All right, awesome. All right, let's make this one the last one, all right?
Sure.
So number 10, God's Pantry only serves Pomona.
That is also false. God's Pantry serves a lot of neighboring cities. We have people that will take the bus, that will drive all the way down to the pantry from neighboring cities to come here and get food because they know what we believe in and what we provide. And then there's also different locations in Chino, Upland, and of course we also partner with other food banks and other organizations. And sometimes if we have excess of something, we're able to also give that to them to help donate, to repurpose, because it's really important to us that all food here gets repurposed in some way. You heard from Enrique, if we have bad produce, they're not bad. That's mulch or something that can be used for a farmer. Like we want to make sure that these hands outreach as far as possible to make sure that nothing goes to waste. Because especially with the amount of food that you see in landfills and the amount of food waste that happens, especially in the States compared to other countries, like it's really important to try and combat that.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, that was more of an episode of Mythbusters. So, all right, next time we'll come back with something a little harder. All right, so the last kind of game we want to play is really trying to get through to, in your core values. So we're going to call this in the box.
Sure.
So if you had to put 3 things in a food box that represent you as a person, what would it be? These could be like symbolic. Personally, I put like, a rice bag.
I also would actually put a rice bag. My dad is an immigrant from Iran, and so I'm first generation American, and I grew up eating basmati rice like 5 days a week. So I would absolutely share the love of rice because it's such a good shelf staple, and you can have it with literally anything. The second thing I probably provide water. So funny enough, I think good filtered water is something that would be nice to give, just because sometimes people may, in certain housing situations, not have access to the cleanest water, either because of the age of the pipes, the filtration system they're using. So making sure that they have access to clean water is something that I really think is important to provide. And then thirdly, the third thing I provide the kid, probably something sweet, because I think it's important to have a nutritious meal, but I just think a little treat and a pick-me-up can be something that can really make a day.
Wow, so rice, water, something sweet, that's a perfect food pyramid right there.
Yeah.
All right, so let's kind of finish off this interview. If you guys are fine giving it any more asks? Okay, awesome, okay. All right, so this is kind of the ending questions we have to say. So basically, in one sentence, what does God's Pantry mean to you? Or maybe even one word.
I think hope. I think hope is, it's such a simple word, but I think it's so symbolic of the mission and purpose here, is a meal kit, housing assistance, help with drug rehabilitation, mental health services, all these things, they provide hope. And hope is such a powerful thing because we can go on and on about rates of depression and suicide within people who are below the poverty line and justice impacted, and they feel like there's no hope in their life. But when you have this type of safe haven, that's something that you guys are trying to help work with too, it's something that really drives the belief that there's going to be a better tomorrow. Like, even though today might suck, or today is one of the roughest days of my life, I have hope that it will get better tomorrow.
Beautifully put. All right, let's fill in this blank. Everyone deserves
A second chance.
a second chance. Wow.
Everyone, God's Pantry is all about second chances. It is people who come in here and they maybe don't have the social skills or the work skills, and they're going to make a mistake and they're going to mess up. But it's the fact of knowing that we want to help you, we forgive you, we don't want to make you feel ostracized for whatever you're coming through. Like, this place is a place of second chances.
Wow. All right, next one is, what's one word you would describe of what you found here at God's Pantry so far?
Purpose. I think for me personally, my faith is one of, if not the largest thing in my life that impacts me. And I would continuously pray for an opportunity to use the skill sets that I have and the privilege I've been given to help serve others. And one day, someone who was affiliated with the Pantry at the time came in to speak in my class at Cal State Fullerton. I sent them a message on LinkedIn. I came in for a tour, and here I am now interning for them. And it really feels like somewhere to where I can not only use my education, but where I can grow in my empathy and understanding of the situations that we witness. It's a reality check. You see people that you know that they have been in stages of life that are rock bottom, and when you still see them come to work with a smile on their face, you're all joking around. It creates a level of connection that I don't think anything on this world can replicate.
Wow. And this is kind of the last question we like to ask in all of our interviews, and it might kind of seem kind of stupid now, you see now, but really, do you really feel like homelessness as an issue, as a national issue, as a even county level issue in LA especially, can be solved? Is there an optimistic outlook? Is there light at the end of the tunnel? Or is it,
It's one of those things to where it absolutely can be solved. How we go about solving it is where it becomes a sticky thing. We definitely have policies in place that are working towards that, but we also have policies in place that kind of are antagonistic towards that as well. It's this balance of what can we make in place so that 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 50 years from now, homelessness rates decrease. I think getting that number to zero is plausible but very improbable. It's the fact that we have to understand that chipping at it every day, if we can, let's say, have a homeless rate of 15% homeless, I'm not sure about the number on top, but if it was 15%, and in 1 year we get that down to 13, that's still a large number, but that's also 2% down. That is a huge impact you're making in lives. So I think it just really comes down to, especially us as young individuals, you guys as high school, like myself as a college student, understanding what can we do to help vote leaders in power that we believe will help create that, and what can we do to help advocate for people, if it's at city council meetings, if it's making sure that there's certain props that retain to homelessness or justice impacted individuals that we're helping advocate for that. I think those are all contributing factors that can go towards the grander mission of making sure homelessness becomes something of the past one day.
All right, well, you guys heard it there. This is Groundwork Podcast, God's Pantry, and that was beautifully put. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.